Holy shit, did I just wander into the beginning of Taken 2? Main character wakes up suddenly from nightmares cliché. Jason Bourne, one of the most wanted men in the world, has not changed his appearance even one iota since becoming a wanted man, despite making Marie change her hair drastically in the last movie and making Nikki change her hair drastically in the next movie. Bourne himself, no, he's good as is, thanks. No one will recognize him.
It's just bits and pieces.
You would think since Harry has a connection to Voldemort, he'd be able to piece these memories together in a short time, and we wouldn't need 8 movies to figure them out. Oh, I'm sorry. My narration just made use of a one-time only time turner and it drifted in from another franchise. Carry on. Journaling. In case you confused it with Berlin, North Dakota.
We understand you're using the full allocation for this spy.
It's where we came out.
Did the CIA not know how much money was going to be involved before this mission started? I never understood why, of all people, they decided to pin this on Jason Bourne, a guy that's been off the grid a couple years and has shown a propensity for revenge violence. But more importantly, can you get a fingerprint like this from anything other than an actual fingerprint on an object? Like, sure, Bourne was printed as part of his government service, but can you really go pull that ink and paper print and create this? I don't think so, so I'm sending it until proven wrong.
Pecos Oil Chief Executive Officer Yuri Gretkov. In just 6 years, Gretkov has turned Pecos into an oil empire.
Exposition by news broadcast. Also, this is just like when Colonel Stewart was watching the news broadcast about himself in the beginning of Die Hard 2. Minus the naked aerobics, of course. Why is it every time there's a meeting between people doing illegal things, the person arriving is always late? And what does this have to do with the narrative at large, except nothing? It's a wonder they were able to hide here for any length of time at all, or even tried to, considering how much white people stand out in this place. Why didn't they go to Australia or something? Who runs this close to the water in tennis shoes? A fucking moron, that's who. Or someone who hates shoes. I highly doubt the overprotective Bourne from the last movie that wanted to wipe down footprints in the hotel would allow this photo to be taken. This is an exciting montage of Bourne running on the beach and Marie looking through his journal, filled with out-of-context notes that aren't going to help us understand anything. I'm gonna guess this is called padding. First off, Bourne spelled apartment with 2 P's on the sheet behind the top one. Then he realized his mistake on the next one. But my sin is for the idea that he can apparently remember his apartment well and drew a picture of a fucking staircase. Having looked at some of these notes in Bourne's journal, most of these are total bullshit that would never help you remember anything. Plus, who was I is basically the top question you're trying to answer, and it's in the middle of the journal? This journal was specifically made for a movie montage, wasn't it? Here's the cliche cotton candy vendor in Gao, India, serving all the tens of tourists teeming in the streets. Jason Bourne just sees a car. It's driving, doing what cars do, and yet somehow knows it's a guy coming to kill him.
We're blown.
Yeah, well, you're hiding in a town that's 99% not white people, and you never changed your appearance. This was basically inevitable. Why didn't you go to England? This is a huge head start, but the movie will still make a car chase out of this.
That's twice now I've seen the same guy. I saw him in town. He was at the telegraph office.
What kind of world does Bourne live in where he somehow doesn't see someone he's seen at least twice in the same town? Especially if he's paying attention and memorizing everyone's faces.
Here, take the wheel. You're gonna drive.
Jason kills Marie. He was keeping a loaded gun in this glove box in a vehicle parked and abandoned with the windows down. This water is way more green than I think it should be. Even if the water in Gao is famously polluted, it's not this green. This is a cinematographer's filter dialed up to 11. Premature confidence that the job was done. Also, job well done sunglasses, in case you confused it with Moscow, British Columbia. Why trust this assassin to do the job, but not trust his word that it's done? Did you hear about the incident and speculate maybe Bourne survived? Or are you just adding tension to the plot for later? Also, this assassin somehow had good enough sight through his rifle scope to headshot his target, but somehow did not see that said target, the driver, was female. I know Bourne wants to see if they've recovered Marie's body, but does he just assume the assassin is as stupid as this movie suggests and isn't lying in wait for an opportunity just like this one? He's really dry. Excessively dry for a guy who recently climbed out of a river. During their time laying low, Marie decided to take numerous photos with pictures of herself so Bourne could dramatically burn them later, I guess. But who took photo? I mean, seriously, this assassin couldn't have just waited here for a couple of hours to see if Bourne came back. I'm pretty sure I don't trust this guy since he was the cook in The Hunt for Red October. In case you confused it with nipples, Emma teeth. You know what, just gonna add 5 cents for these obvious place names and this movie will get an overall discount and I won't have to point out each one. Why the hell are these CIA people who have been briefed on Bourne's capabilities so stupid as to believe he'd leave behind an obvious fingerprint like this? Do they not know how Bourne borns? I thought Treadstone was a Black Ops off-the-books kind of program that much of the CIA could plausibly deny existed, but apparently there are well-kept files for this thing.
Sir, look, you're not going to believe this. Jason Bourne's passport just...
Why waste precious seconds with the "you're not going to believe this" intro if the information is so goddamn important? Also, yes, he shouldn't believe that. At least you should know he's doing it on purpose. I mean, these assholes act like they never CIA'd before. Got a question? Does anyone question why Bourne would have been so stupid as to get himself caught with his own passport in Naples, and maybe try and talk about this shit on a more secure line?
He assassinated 2 men, 1 a highly experienced field officer. I want that area...
No doubt the amazing super agent got all this the first time he heard it, but he's rewinding it several times because I guess this scene needed some dialogue? This poor girl. She finally gave up that ballet hip-hop dream and settled for a life in the CIA. She had a rough year or two back in the day with Jason Bourne's amnesia, but she settled nicely in Amsterdam, country of drugs, sex, and very little CIA-level espionage. And now he's going to storm back into her life and flip it upside down. Planes, trains, and automobiles. Ah, the old government fleet of Chrysler minivans routine. It regularly frightened the Russians during the late 80s, but lost its mojo once the Russians figured out the translation for soccer mom. This asshole, who somehow knows Bourne is inside his apartment after entering, somehow sees no clues outside his apartment. It's always bugged me. If he can f***ing sense Bourne inside the house in a few moments based on nothing, why can't he sense something is amiss while outside his home? Bourne, like a f***ing amateur, is distracted by a f***ing phone ringing. The shaky cam one-on-one fight scenes are the only derogatory thing I can say about these movies. But also, Bourne has a magazine and this dude has a knife, yet Bourne still wins, so USA! 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 Bourne rigs this thing up and it just happens to work, right when the bad guys get to the front door. Cops respond immediately to something that just happened 1 second ago. That shit was entertaining for sure, but what did Jason Bourne benefit by going to that asshole's apartment? The assurance that he's being hunted? How the f*** did he even get that other Treadstone agent's home f***ing address anyway?
You killed 2 people, Bourne. You killed 2 people, Bourne.
Ironically, he did kill 2 people in Berlin, ages before the deaths Landy is talking about, which is just enough to confuse and bother Bourne for some reason.
Send her alone. Give her your phone.
What if I can't find her?
It's easy. She's standing right next to you.
Okay, good scene and everything, but there is no reason why Landy would pretend she doesn't know where Nikki is, other than to have this great moment where Landy realizes Bourne is watching her right now. Also, there are at least 30 trained CIA agents in this room, yet they don't all storm out and immediately swarm the surrounding buildings facing these windows to catch Bourne. Instead, they stare in wonder. Must be part of the training, I guess. These are some of the most visible snipers I've ever seen. Forget Bourne. I'm surprised everyday citizens aren't running and screaming right now. These fuckers are obvious as hell.
Conklin, stuff on Conklin. It was something to do with a Russian politician.
Nesky.
Oh, come on. If the last 57 minutes are to be believed, you've only been able to remember bits and pieces of things. Something about a train, something Chris Cooper said to you, all vague. Now Nikki says something about a Russian politician and you come up with Nesky just like that? Wouldn't Gorbachev or Yeltsin or Putin come up first? The CIA, in town to catch Bourne, in part due to the Nesky murders,
He knows something about the Nesky case.
are not monitoring internet search traffic for the word Nesky. Surprisingly, the newspaper articles in this sequence actually have real written articles that go along with them. But this article clearly plagiarizes the previous one. Okay, I understand killing the kid underling who figured out the ruse. What I don't get is leaving his body here, at the site of the original crime, as though that won't cast immediate suspicion on anyone and everyone affiliated with this case, including you.
This is a live project. You're a go.
Bourne's memories return at a rate consistent with this movie's plot development, which is amazing. So here's Bourne once again going into a place using his real identity and whatnot so that Landy will know where he is. But how does he expect her to put 2 and 2 together about this hotel, how he killed a Russian politician and his wife, and how Conklin and Abbott are involved? Luckily, Abbott will suddenly freak out about Bourne visiting this place and say everything he needs to say on tape so that Bourne can win, even though Bourne by himself can't prove anything. Also, I find it amazing that the one assassination Bourne is trying to remember has something to do with the very thing that put this movie's plot into motion. Bourne enters this door by using a something. Also, do you really need to break into 645? Aren't most of these hotel rooms the same, especially if they're on the same floor and across the hall from each other? You need to be in the exact room to remember all this. Bourne remembers he actually killed these people, with the requisite amount of blurriness. Even if Bourne hadn't seen your careless footstep shadows already, you're making enough noise, especially with the yelling, I'm sure he'd already know you were here long before he was in any danger. Also, I guess it's a good thing room 645 wasn't available, and there was no one in it, so he could walk around and remember he killed those people a long time ago, and everyone thinks he's in room 644 right now. Bourne casually jumps 50 feet off a bridge, onto a rooftop, onto a boat, and suffers nothing from the effort. And no one from cop to spectator saw that. The very definition of convenient. Smart play? Sure. Convenient as f***? Absolutely.
I recognize this room from a photo.
No, you don't.
They found Danny Zorn's body.
This guy does not go on to finish the sentence by saying, in the exact spot where we originally found Bourne's fingerprints.
They can't prove anything without Bourne.
This movie is a clear case of where the villain somehow made life worse for himself by trying to kill someone who didn't need to be killed. Once you got the damn files, you didn't need to hunt down an unkillable assassin in India with amnesia who was living life peacefully with his girlfriend. Landy obviously suspects something is up with Brian Cox, because he was the early 2000s go-to villain, and she walks right into his room without him answering, but isn't even armed or has backup in case this guy is as dangerous as she thinks he is. I see they've entered one of those PG-13 strip clubs I've been hearing about that somehow make money. The movie gives us no explanation for how Bourne figures out these particular Russian guys trying to kill him. It just cuts straight to him in Russia going apeshit. For a movie that spends a lot of time showing us Bourne figuring out, this seems out of character. Holy this random woman not only knows that Nesky's daughter moved away, but knows the exact location where she moved? Wait a minute, what's that? Someone I can't possibly see from here walking in the park with his back turned to me? Must be Bourne. This is just an awful shot from someone hired to kill someone like this. These cops let Carl Urban go after seeing some ID, but apparently don't ask any questions about the man he was trying to kill or even attempt to help him out. Bad guy utterly guesses where the good guy went but is 100% correct cliché. Yeah, one woman walked out of that grocery store with mild urgency. He must be in there. Map reading while driving is actually 3 times more dangerous than texting while driving. But whatever, it's a movie and we're rooting for this guy, so. Also, reading a map this fast, at these speeds, in this kind of rush would be impossible even for data from Star Trek, let alone Jason Bourne. This is some next level computing bullshit going on right before our eyes. Treating a wound while driving is even more dangerous than reading a map while, oh, f it. This guy is Superman in a car, I'll just accept it. Bourne is driving a taxicab, but this movie will have you believe he's in one of those souped-up Fast and Furious vehicles, complete with NOS. The old drive into 8 lanes of traffic and hope my pursuers get it worse than I do routine. Works every time. Innocent life? F you, I'm a killer running from a killer. We matter more. That anyone survives this. Somehow, with all these witnesses, Bourne still escapes into the ether after this. Also, shouldn't there be way more f***ing cars backed up in this tunnel? This is a 4-lane tunnel. Are you telling me traffic on this bitch is so minimal that Bourne's carnage has only backed up 9 cars? This asshole couldn't just meet her a normal way? Did he have to be a spooky dick about this? Surely someone like him was trained in the art of meeting strangers without breaking into their apartment, like taking notes from that pickup artist mystery asshole, or that style asshole. Oh, you're afraid of my gun. Let me put it away, instead of, putting it away before you even showed up and Bourne, for all his genius, is a f***ing idiot.
I speak English.
That's beautiful. How did you know he spoke English? Did you detect that Boston accent in his Russian? Even if you did, it's a sin that the highly trained super assassin has a Boston accent to detect. Hey, I killed your parents in cold blood and made it look like your mom killed your dad. Hope you can forgive me. I mean, how do you even convince yourself to come here, let alone say that bullshit to her? Sure, you feel better, but how is her mental health right now? Do you even care?
Get some rest, Pam. You look tired.
He could have literally guessed that from anywhere.
I figure, while I'm at it, why not just shoot my buddy? Take his job, give it to his sworn enemy, hike up gas prices, bomb a village, club a baby seal, hit the hash pipe, and join the National Guard. I could be elected president.
I think about the sheer number of people who pulled together to save my sorry ass, and I can barely comprehend it. The cost of my survival was in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
What happens if the engine stops? We all freeze and die.
I'll see you again. This side or the other.
I like to think the last thing that went through his head, other than that bullet, was to wonder how the hell Andy Dufresne ever got the best of him.
Touching a hand, wondering why it's time for saying goodbye.
Guys around here will tell you, you play for a living. It's like any other job. You don't gamble. You grind it out. Your goal is to win one big bet an hour. That's it.
Pamela Landy.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid.
Bourne?
You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change.